Hi there, Stephen Oliver here. Thank you for joining us. We're doing a special little private briefing for ATA schools. I'm joined by ATA's Senior Master Greg Moody. So introduce yourself, Master Moody. Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Hello, sir. Well, I think between you and I, they know a lot about us from different seminars and things I've taught across the country for ATA and everything. Been in the ATA for 25 years, and I had 8 schools and about 13,500 students, and that's where we're trying to get all of our information from for what we want to do to help other school owners to grow and get to the high level of success.
Fantastic. And we're joined by Mr. Thomas Wright. So Thomas, introduce yourself to everybody.
Yes, sir. I'm Thomas Wright from Memphis, Tennessee. I've been with the ATA a little over 10 years now, and been with Martial Arts Wealth Mastery for a couple of years, and wanted to pop in and say hello to everybody.
Fantastic, fantastic. Hey, a little bit of my background. Some of the ATA may or may not know me. I've been kind of around the industry for a while, but I started martial arts in 1969. I was very, very young, and opened my first school in 1974, opened Mile High Karate in 1983. I've been running schools professionally since the 70s. In Mile High Karate's case, here in Denver, Colorado, we grew it first to 6 locations that I own outright. When I started out, opened 5 schools in 18 months, grew to 1,500 students and well over $1 million in revenue, and grew into a multi-million-dollar multi-school operation. And then we franchised that. What our focus is today is more on martial arts wealth mastery and what we've been doing. And I've been doing this since I think 2000, but focusing on helping schools with their marketing, with their enrollment and renewal processes, helping them with their overall management structure, but really showing schools, myself, Senior Master Moody, Jeff Smith, and the rest of our team, showing schools really how to dramatically improve their revenue, more importantly, how to improve their bottom line and how to improve their lifestyle. So making sure the business doesn't own them, and at the same time making sure that the net profit is strong and solid. And Mr. Ray, let's shift to you here for a second. You've been around for 18 months or 2 years, something like that.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about what your school looked like as an ATA school before we started working together. Give us a few numbers. What was your active count? What were you charging? What was the revenue? What did that look like?
My highest program, our leadership program, I was charging $150. It was a 3-year program. I had everybody started at a 6-month basic program, what I called white through yellow belt, and the highest rank they could get was camo. Our school active count had gotten up to 80 right before I started working with you and Senior Master Moody. I had gone all the way down to 35. We were about to have to close the school. And fortunately, through you sent me your book, Senior Master Moody was coaching me almost every 2 days, I think, at that time. And listening to Lee Miltier and all the other material that you were sending and posting. We're now up to, we hit 224 yesterday.
Okay. And so before, when we first started working together, what kind of average monthly revenue were you running? I know you were right on the brink of throwing in the towel, but what were you?
We were, I would get excited when we hit 14,000 just so I could pay some bills.
Okay.
Bad. And now I'm angry if we're not hitting 40,000. So
good.
And we're pushing up towards 50 because our school is going to be a $600,000 school by the middle of next year.
Fantastic. So maybe walk back through some of the numbers. We're right now recording this in the middle of June, or towards the end of June, actually. How many enrollments have you done so far for June? And what's your traffic like? How many?
We're at 18 right now. We had a slow. I was out of the school for a while. So after talking to Senior Master Moody, he kind of kicked me in the butt and said, no, you need to be, we talked about staffing. And now, for example, yesterday we did 7 enrollments. Myself and Ms. Callahan, our head instructor, we were just almost tag teaming. I would come in and evaluate, she would train and then evaluate, and then I would sign them up. And we were doing that. We started yesterday around noon or 1. We didn't finish until 7:45 last night, and we still had classes going. So doing that, and we're training every single one of our staff to be able to do everything, which is making a huge difference.
Well, and I think that's something important to mention, Mr. Wright. I mean, you I hope it's okay to say, but you had pretty serious back surgery recently, and your school is still averaging 40,000. You're still doing good numbers, and of course, your energy out of the school made you dip a little bit. But I think for a lot of school owners, having back surgery, we just talked to somebody the other day, had some serious knee surgery, and they basically closed their school. We tried to say, you don't have to. You need to have the right systems in place so you don't have to be there. Hopefully the next time you're out, it's because you're in Tahiti on vacation with your wife. But then hopefully your expectation should be that the school still operates correctly.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, and this is, my wife will tell anyone this, and she says it all the time. She's mentioned it to both of you. The best thing that ever happened to me was that back surgery, my first back. I've had 3 now since this has happened, and we've grown every month. That first big back surgery forced me to quit teaching on the floor, quit being a technician, start reading. That's when I read Grandmaster Oliver's book. And actually, I'm still trying to read every single book he keeps sending me as a reference. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because now I'm not on the floor teaching. I'm training instructors, and we're working our program properly now, and I have someone helps me do all the marketing as well. So we keep up. We have systems in place that are making the school grow every month, no matter what happens to me.
As a quick aside, which book of mine was that you read when you were in the hospital the first time?
Both of them, Mile High Maverick and everything. I wish
I knew I was 22.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything I knew when I was 22. Great book. In fact,
were there some useful takeaways from those 2 that you remember specifically?
Well, I'll tell you, the one that really hit me, first of all, I'm reading stuff from someone who's done it. Mm-hmm. Big difference from a lot of the conferences we go to. It's usually someone who hasn't done it. They work for the corporation, but you've done it. And every time I call you, you say, well, let me tell you why that didn't work for me. And we've talked about that with having trying to have other programs in here other than Taekwondo. But in the book specifically, it talks about staffing. It talks about paying yourself. It talks about getting off your butt and making it work. I think that was the big one. Market, and then have something to show when you market. So, you can't just go out there, and the book tells you can't go out there and market, get everybody in, and not have something for them to do that's worth what you just done. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And as we've talked about a few times, and sometimes I'm not very diplomatic about it, but to steal some language from Steve Jobs, there's been kind of a bozo explosion of consultants in the industry over the last few years. And most of them are either flash in the pan guys, right? So they had a good month or a good year, and they're trying to sort of tell everybody what they did. And a lot of them have never done anything to speak of other than talk a good story about and maybe be able to sell what it is they're selling, but they've never really done it. Even some of the guys who have run a substantial operation, if you haven't looked behind the scenes, it's hard to sort out what they're selling you from what they actually did to be financially successful. Sometimes there's a difference. How would you rate, Thomas? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but you have, Grandmaster Jeff Smith, myself, Senior Master Moody. How do you rate the honesty, straightforwardness, reality quotient of what we're doing relative to some of the people you've talked to?
Well, it's 1 to 10. It's a 10. I mean, because it's real. Master Smith has been doing this since what, the 60s, 70s?
Yeah.
You've opened your first school in the early 80s, and you opened what, 3 at a very low budget? 5, okay. All of you are real. Senior Master Moody is still running all these schools. I mean, This is all honest. Here's what works. Here's what we've tried, didn't work. Here's why it probably won't work for you. You have experience, you have data to back it up, and you make us also go out and learn how to do this stuff.
You bet. You bet. You know, in simplest terms, I think the way I describe it to people who are new coming in is we try to make the complicated simple, right? But there really are just three elements of running a school. There's how long you keep the students, which is a great deal function of the relationship and how you're treating them and the quality of your operation. There's what the average revenue per student is, and there's how many new students you get. And I would say most everybody who comes to talk to us thinks that their biggest problem is marketing. They think they just don't know how to get enough new students. Usually they have a problem with all three. Is that a fair way to say it, Master Moody?
Yeah, and I think and I think Mr. Wright from being at our live meetings and seeing some of the new people come in could back that up as well. That in almost all cases, all three things need to be addressed. And to get too focused on marketing, a lot of times misses the point. And we certainly don't want to have somebody. We get a lot of people that talk to us and they've got 200 students, but they're only doing 20,000 a month. Boy, that's really terrible numbers. They should be doing 40,000 or more. And their dollar per member is so low that what happens is it keeps them working like crazy. They can't hire staff. They can't properly build the systems. Their lifestyle is very bad. And one thing you said at the beginning too that I think is really important from the point of view of the owner, there's a lot of times they talk about profit or lifestyle, but we're also trying to make sure that student quality is very high. Those three things go together, and a lot of times when they're talking to somebody about all these people out there that they might hear things from to try to make a little bit more money or get a few more students, it really hampers their lifestyle. It doesn't help their profit, and a lot of times the student quality goes down. And another thing that I think is a relevant point is, most of our schools that we work with, a few of them have multiple programs, but you can make a really good high quality living teaching Songam, ATA, Taekwondo. You don't have to have Cage Fitness and 15 other programs going along with what you do. You can have a very high quality program teaching what you love. And that's what I really like to try to help people with. And where I think they get distracted. I mean, we did this because we love ATA, Taekwondo, Songam, Taekwondo. That's why Mr. Wright was in a different style of martial arts and then they got involved with ATA. And that's why I got involved with it. I was doing something else and I love doing this. I love Songam Taekwondo. And you can make a very good living with a very high quality lifestyle and have great student quality doing that. And I think that becomes a distraction when people are, trying to grow and make more money. You can grow by doing it the right way and improving the efficiency and quality of what you do internally. Well,
and to put some hard numbers at it, I mean, I've seen schools work with schools that can do 100,000 plus a month revenue, net 50,000 plus or more revenue with one Taekwondo program, right? And or it could be other styles, but with one program, whether it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or in this case, Songam Taekwondo. The other benchmarks that you just mentioned, Master Moody, to hone it back, dropout rate. A lot of people are happy with dropping out 7, 8, 10% of their student body a month. We're trying to get it down to 2 or 3% a month, maybe a high end of 4% a month. And you think about what that means. In order to have 500 active students, if you drop out 2% a month, you need 10 a month to replace that. In order to have 500 students, if you're dropping out 10% a month, you need 50 a month. Much easier to keep your students than it is to constantly cycle and look for new people. Mr. Thomas,
not sir, but by the way, there's a lot of people that talk about having high student retention, but they don't do anything. They don't really give you tools to make sure that you have it. Yeah. And once you put those tools in place and have good systems in place, not only does your student retention go up, but you need to automate some of these systems. And we don't have time to go into the details today, but we've got to make sure that those things are reasonable and automated so that you get those kind of numbers, those results. And I want to reiterate what you said, though. 2% dropout rate versus even 7 or 8% dropout rate has a massive difference in the number of students you end up having. But the other downstream thing is, if you're only dropping out 2%, the quality of your program is better.
You bet.
and your upgrades and everything else, the number of people in leadership, the number of people in your legacy, your instructor program are going to be better. Everything downstream works. So all these things fit together, and we don't want to get the impression that there's just one thing we need to do or one marketing thing that's just the magic be all and end all. It's really making sure you have a complete picture of your school and that you build it in a way that, like Mr. Wright unfortunately had back surgery, but everything ran okay. Next time, hopefully it's a long vacation and everything runs okay.
Sure. Well, and again, go back to those 3 benchmarks is student retention, which is greatly about the structure of the program, the way you deal with them in the first 3 or 4 months, and the relationship. And then it's about the average revenue per student. And Mr. Wright, what I was going to say is you just said to us a minute ago that your average value for a new enrollment before we started working together was less than $100 a month, right?
Yes.
And now your average value for a new enrollment is almost $250. It's what, $230 a month. And so now you're averaging over $200 a month per active student. And so in order to do 50,000 a month, you only need 250 active, or maybe even 220 or 30 to do that. And again, from a lifestyle standpoint, that makes a huge difference. Now, but let's talk about what most people want to hear about to begin with, appropriately or otherwise. Let's talk about marketing. What's the last 3 or 4 months looked like for you from a standpoint of intro flow, new enrollments? Because, I mean, you just said you're mad because you've only done 18 enrollments this month and you were out for a while with back surgery. So give us a sense of what the spring has looked like so far.
Well, spring, I'll tell you, it really took off when I was out. Of course, everything had rolled down. So when I came back, we went right into the, as I mentioned, the training of the staff. But as far as the marketing, we went right into getting mailers out. We hit Vistaprint, we hit Easy Mail or Amazing Mail. We hit the mailboxes. We had our summer camp. We have 2 Groupon programs working. We're hitting everything, as you've always said. Our drip system is just, there's a lot of water dripping out there.
Right.
And that's what's working. We are covered up. Groupon alone they're coming in every day, 2 to 4 to 5 enrollments. We did a family of 4 yesterday. They are Groupon.
And you're enrolling those into full programs too. Your conversion rate on the Groupon is really good, right?
Right. We don't have any mini programs. They go right, if somebody joins our school, they go right to our basic trial program. So they're members of our school. They're members of ATA. They're full members. They're paying. That's our pricing is $227 per month for the basic program, and then it goes up.
Right. So you're enrolling them the first day or two into the regular basic program for a year at $227 a month. I mean, some people have had concerns about Groupon. I think you're doing a Groupon plus you're using the Rev Marketing Go-To Karate Groupon as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're because those are good people that we recommend as well. And I think that's worth saying. So you've got a professional website. You make sure that you do all the online stuff, but there's also, I heard you say, a lot of offline stuff. And just so people are clear with direct mail, you're not doing every door direct mail. You're doing some very specific things that we're helping you with that does work and is really effective.
Yes. You have to get into their mailbox. You have to get into their house. That's the first step. Then you want that phone call because we've got to get face to face. We don't sign anybody up to our website, although our website generates leads. And once we get them, my daughter is on the phone or I'm on the phone on the weekends. We get right to them. We set them up. We go right for the appointment within 24 to 48 hours, just as you've always told us.
Yeah.
And then when they come in, we have a system for them all the way through. We get everybody involved. This is exactly the way you 3, Master Smith isn't here, but exactly the way you all keep telling us to set it up in these meetings. I finally did it, and it's working like a champ. It's a charm. It's wonderful.
Yeah, the picture you sent me a couple of months ago was, my metaphor. which you found a great picture, was somebody standing in front of a fire hose trying to drink from a fire hose. And the language we use is the Parthenon, right? It's online marketing, Facebook, Google, search and pay-per-click. It's Groupon and that type thing. And then it's live event marketing, which you've been having phenomenal results with. It's community outreach, perhaps working with local elementary schools, churches, etc. It's publicity and public relations and getting traffic there. It's direct mail, but direct mail focused on people we already know are interested, rather than just trying to saturate the neighborhood. And it's, once we have a lead, it's following, or once we have a prospect, once we have somebody who's obviously interested, whether they came online or offline, it's making sure we don't let them go, right? So like right now in the summer, we may get a lot of people who are very interested, but they're getting ready to leave town. But then if we follow up with them back to school, it's a good time. Or if we follow up with them in October. So that Parthenon, and we're only scratching the surface, but it's massively effective internal systems for referrals, effective systems for family add-ons. It's effective systems for community outreach, for live event marketing, for online marketing, and all the different aspects of it. And putting all that stuff together, not only do you get high quality students who are willing to pay a strong tuition, but you get as many of them as you decide that you want to create. Is that a fair way to say it?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. We had a birthday party. We had 2 functions Saturday. We didn't get done till 5. Senior Master Moody told me a long time ago, Saturday should be just like a normal work day for you. And sure enough, we go at it 6 days a week. Saturday is actually the biggest day of the week now. We had a birthday party. Part of the 7 we signed yesterday were 2 young ladies from the birthday party. They joined yesterday. We have more appointments from that today. We have Groupon today. We have another web lead, and then I'm going to a church tonight as a guest of one of our parents for her 2 kids who just did their private lesson this morning. I'll be up there in front of another 20-something children, and I already have all their information and their permission slips.
Yeah, and that's a key thing, is that what we're trying to do with all the schools we're working with is making sure that when you do activities like going to a church or a school or something, that you get high returns. There's so many people, and it just burns you out if you go to a school and do an activity with 100 kids and nobody signs up, or even 1 signs up or 2 sign up. It's just not worth it. And there's so much misinformation about doing this work with schools or churches or organizations. Both the live events, 2 different kind of things, live events like movie theaters or marathons or stuff, but also the school related or organization related things where you just don't get very high numbers. And who wants to do that and go do all those things and not get results? So birthday parties, all this stuff, where we try to make these things work so that our expectations need to be much higher for events like that. So for the church with 25, 30 kids, we want to expect 3 or 4 or 5 members from that. Not, maybe we'll go there and maybe one day that somebody will join. And you just mentioned you got the information prior to even going, which is critical. It has to be done. So that's a big point right there.
Well, and again, and I hate to be the guy who sounds this way, but given the bozo explosion of people running around doing things, is a lot of the guys who are trying to give away or sell marketing advice probably heard something that I did or that one of us did 5 or 10 years ago or a few years ago and never understood it. And so I see several of these guys who are getting people to go do a lot of activity, but they miss the key components, as you just mentioned, Master Moody, that turns it into real enrollment. So, they might generate, be in front of 5,000 people and generate 1 or 2 enrollments. We might be in front of 50 people and generate 20 enrollments. I mean, it's that kind of difference. The other thing, and I want to address it, is what's going around the industry right now is several guys running around saying, well, I only have to work 4 hours a week in my school. They're like pitching it like they've got the magic pill and everything's going to work and you don't even have to be there. Well, I mean, I always ran multi-schools in each individual of my school. I mean, the last one that I owned outright, I was there maybe an hour every couple of months. But you either run it through staff. So Mr. Tom, as you just said, you're out for back surgery and things keep going. and
Yes.
you're not able to teach class, and your things keep going, and you're now able to work on yourself and work on your business, and you don't have to be on the floor 24/7. And the next step is you don't have to do the sales yourself, and the next step is you don't have to do the marketing yourself. If that's the goal, you can certainly set any one of these schools, as Master Moody and I, Master Smith. I mean, that's really been our entire life, is be truthfully absentee owners, because we had full-time employees doing marketing, sales, and teaching. But don't get the idea that it's a magic pill and all these things are going to happen on their own and you don't have to be there and you don't have to have payroll. Well, you either have to have somebody, a person do it, or you do it. But either way, you want it to be done effectively. Is that a good way to say it?
That's exactly right. That's as we continue to grow our staff, not number-wise, but the training that my staff is getting and what they're working and the way we work together to make these numbers happen. As we do this, there's more for them to do, and I have to continue to learn and find, and that's where this group comes in, because I have all this experience I can tap to. This is what you would call the ultimate mastermind group when it comes to martial arts. This is what keeps me on top with these instructors, and they work and they're jumping on it, and we have a very small crew. But because of that and because of the way that they're accepting their training, I'm able to pay them more than the other schools, or actually pay them more than just about any other job out there as far as martial arts is concerned.
Well, I think you're paying them more, as we've talked about. You're paying them more than what they would have to pay. I'm sorry, you're paying them more than what they would make if they own their own school on the average.
Yeah.
And that's all. My guys make a lot more than if they had their own school, so there's no reason for them to leave. And that's why we've been able to keep people for a long time. My current manager at one of the schools, she's been with me 20 years, and started with me from the beginning in the industry, in the field. So there's not a reason to leave, because they know that not only is it higher pay, but also you've got the knowledge and systems in place so that it makes their life a lot easier. If they had to do it on their own, they'd have to figure out how to do all this stuff from scratch.
Absolutely. And being aware of time, the structure of what we're doing, let's talk about that a little bit, is, we looked around the industry a few years ago and realized that what most people are doing, and I did a seminar tour, dealt with, I don't know, many ATA schools, but many schools that weren't ATA as well. And I realized that a main component is the way that we learn martial arts. You had a concerned and interested teacher. You had a teacher who really had a great deal of substance and knowledge in most cases. You had a classroom environment where you had peers, some of whom were doing much better than you were doing and you were working and striving to catch up. Others were behind you and you're helping them along. Is really what was happening in the industry from a standpoint of teaching school owners didn't look like that, right? It's mailing them a CD or giving them access to a website or something or other. And we completely reoriented the way that we're doing things with school owners. And it really is the same element. It's a individualized coaching process with myself, Master Moody, Master Smith, and Bob Dunn is a support staff member for that, and Mara Kahura. It's a classroom environment where on a quarterly basis we come together for a couple of days, face to face, but on the months that we don't do that, it's a combination of daily, a group discussion, which is an online forum. It's a weekly meeting that's just like this. So now we're doing a weekly meeting on webcams, completely interactive. Anybody can ask any questions they want. And so a combination of the weekly class, which is typically about 90 minutes, so it's the equivalent of 2 45-minute classes in a martial arts school, a huge support base of reference material. Again, most of it is online, but a huge base of reference material combined with a weekly basis, getting together in a very interactive classroom environment like this, combined with a daily ability to get any question answered on a minute's notice. Now, on the live meetings, which I think people find the most valuable piece, I don't know, everybody's a little different, but we are combining that with sometimes it's behind the scenes at a real high performance school. Like we just went to Master Smith School, and in his case, 87% of everybody who enrolls ends up renewed within the first couple months on average. 90% of them go into the more expensive program. So they enroll at around $200 a month. They renew at around $400 a month. Some of them are things like behind the scenes at West Point, Annapolis, Air Force Academy, focusing on high level leadership. Some of them are behind the scenes at Disney or a comparable organization looking at high level service. But really, it's a bringing together of those people. Now, Master Moody, you wanted to discuss a little bit the live meetings, and really what we've accomplished here is we know that not everybody's going to be able to come to every live meeting. The ones that they're unable to attend, we audio record them and video record them. All the handouts, we make that available for everybody. The recordings, we make that available for everybody. And for the bigger schools, what a lot of them do is they use, especially two that we've designated a year, as a high-level staff training event as well. So, but Master Moody, you want to address that a little bit? And then Thomas, let's get your take on it before we run out of time here.
Well, yeah, you know, we spend, in the ATA, we have such a great organization with so many good events that we do. I mean, I'm going to Worlds next week, and we're recording this right before the end of June here to put the time frame on it. But, you know, like in the World Conference has some really good events for all kinds of different things that we can explore. But what is a little different about what we're doing is we're spending 2 to 3 days on what's going on in your entire operation. Not just by ourselves, not just with me and Master Oliver and Master Smith, but also with the other top school owners. And that's a big difference. You know, you could learn martial arts by just doing a one-on-one lesson with an instructor for a long time, but there's a lot more, there's a value at some point in training with a group. And, you know, sometimes frankly, it's seeing another guy doing $100,000 a month and going, if he's doing that, why can't I do that? And we have a lot of those in that group. And then there's some people that are just starting out and maybe they're not doing as well. And they can, you can learn from them as well. You can learn from everybody. So being in that live environment and hearing what other people's concerns are and questions are is helping you really have a complete picture of what we need to do and move forward. The other thing is, you know, when we go to an event, you know, one of our ATA events and spend some time, sometimes we feel like, or some people have said to me, well, I've got all these other events to do. I've got these tournaments to do, so I can't make the live events. We try to make them when there's no conflicts with other ATA events. We do our best for that because we want to make sure that you do go to those events as well. But don't discount spending 2 days or 3 days on your business. It's better for you, for your lifestyle. It's better for your business profitability. And frankly, it's better for your students to spend that time training on how you're doing what your profession is.
Absolutely.
One more thing, there's nothing against, we're not saying don't go to the tournaments. I go to all the tournaments in my region. I go to the world championships and nationals and everything too, and judge and spend the time there. But that's tournament time, and it's focused on supporting the students in that venue. There's a big difference between that and really taking 2 days away to work on your business, preferably with your staff as well. So these are important events, and I'm sure everybody can make 1 or 2 of these a year. And we try to make this convenient. The next one coming up, everybody should be at the one Colorado because that's our marketing boot camp. And we spend, Mr. Wright, would you say a little bit more about that, about how important that was to you?
That is information. There's so much information from the word go all the way. I mean, all of our live events, when we're face to face, is so much information. The fact that it's so relaxed really helps out a lot as well. But when for example, last year when I was at the marketing one in Colorado, you're in this beautiful area. You're in this meeting room with people who are doing the same thing you are. We all have the same headaches. We all have the same staff issues, sales issues, you know, all of it. And we're there learning from the top school owners in the country. It's full experience and information overload. There's so much stuff to take away from there that you write it all down, and then you spend the next couple of days talking to your coach, in my case, Senior Master Moody, putting it all into an action plan so we can get it started. And every time I come back from one of those, our school grows even more.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you had a big burst every time you've gone, but we want you to leave those events with real stuff that you're really going to do. And I think sometimes we go to events and we leave and go back home, and after the time we got home, then we put that stuff on the shelf. And we're not really trying to give people information to stick on the shelf or information in general. We're trying to help you get real results. And that's what's kind of different about these live events. And then when you leave and what we're doing when we work on it work on those, what you learn from those events afterwards.
Well, and I think that's a big deal because, you know, if I go to the Super Show or go to some of your events or go to some of the other industry events, a lot of it is there's a speaker up there and they're talking about stuff and you don't know whether they're real or not real or what their, you know, background is or whether they really have had that results. But it's also really no different than a lecture. It's no different than a one-to-many webinar or a teleconference. What these are completely interactive. So our weekly meetings and our live events, you know, it's I remember just the last couple, you know, one time we're listening to Kobe Winkler, and he's talking about how one community outreach live event created 180 leads, 150 appointments, 100 intros, 52 enrollments that beget the next month 200,000 cash in the bank, right? And Colby's a great guy. He's very sharp, but nobody sitting in the room looked at Colby and said, you know, he can do it because he's special, he's brighter than I am, he's in a better market, anything else, right? If anything, a lot of times you look at the individual schools and you look at the market and you say, well, if he can do that in Memphis, I can do that in Colorado, if he can do that in Arizona, right? Is a lot of times it's the opposite of what you might expect. You know, you might expect these big schools are 20,000 square feet and they're in Manhattan and they've got a primary location. Most of that is not the case at all. It's just standard community, suburban locations in decent but not spectacular locations that are just blowing it away. You know, another time I was sitting in the meeting and everybody heard, let's take you for an example since you're on the meeting, but you and Paul Pendergast as an example, and Paul just raised his tuition from $195 a month to $247 a month. His enrollment percentages improved. His renewal rates have improved. Everything has improved. So somebody sitting there charging $127 a month or $149 a month saying, well, I can't do that in my area. And then what you hear is what their location is like, what the process was, what the outcome, and it validates it for you very quickly. What would you guys say about that? I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah. And
if I can interject real quick.
Go ahead.
You know, Colby and I kind of started this. I don't know exactly when he joined this group, but he and I started doing these programs, hitting them really hard about the same time, right after, I forgot which live meeting it was. Maybe, I don't think it was Panama City. It may have been after Colorado. We started doing that at the same time, and it was everything that we took from that live event, and then followed up with the live, at the time, phone calls, now the video conferences, and talking to our coach, in my case, Senior Master Moody. But it was more than you all saying, well, you need to go to this game, you need to go to these events. It was, go to these events, here's how it works. You take and keep it simple, do this, have these people here. When you do your mailers, here's some companies we suggest using. However, if you have one that works, let us know. And then here's how you want to have your mailers to look. You know, you want to have your headline, and you know, and just go from there. It's not just go out there, do this, do this, do this, do this.
You bet. You bet.
We want to give you the backup so that everything that you're doing actually works. You know, I mean, that's the thing. There's nothing more troublesome to me is when you're working really hard and you're not getting results. And Master Oliver, you said this a long time ago to me, and I remember it really well, is there's two kinds of school owners. There's one kind that works really hard and makes a lot of money, and there's another kind that works really hard and doesn't make much money. And, you know, most of the guys we talk to, if they're going to bother getting on the phone and talk to us, or if you're watching this video now, you're probably working pretty hard. But if you're not doing the kind of numbers Mr. Wright is, or better, or some of our top guys are, then it's really the strategy. And you need to learn. The implication here is we're trying to build a system very much like if you were learning to become a black belt in martial arts. But yet a lot of people, if you really look at the time you've dedicated to learning about your business and learning about how to do these other things, it's such a fraction of the time that it took you to become a black belt. You're probably a white or orange or yellow belt in martial arts, and we're really trying to help create black belts in martial arts, the martial arts business, no different than becoming a black belt in martial arts, and really not just a black belt, but becoming a master eventually in the martial arts business. And that's when you have really good profit, really good lifestyle, and fantastic student quality. All those things go together.
Yeah, and that's a good analogy. Is most people have that we see that we start working with, there may be a 5th degree black belt or a 6th degree black belt or a 3rd degree black belt, and they've trained in martial arts for 15, 20 years, maybe more, and they've studied and they've traveled in one thing or another. But then their knowledge base on their business and their knowledge base as a professional and teacher is very low, right? And it hasn't even been pointed out that here you are a 5th degree black belt in martial arts, but you're a gold belt in how to run your business.
Yellow belt.
What's that?
Yellow belt first.
Okay, whatever. Camo belt. You're a camo in how to. What's that?
I had a gold belt once, a long time ago.
Yeah, you guys don't have a peak polka dot belt yet, do you?
No.
Anyway. Well, I mean, we're all keep looking for different colors that in to keep it engaged. But so many people running their school, they think that if they just teach harder and they're a nicer instructor, and even worse, they think if they learn a whole bunch more new curriculum stuff, that everything is going to be great. And the reality is, until you really master the marketing, you master the sales process, and you manage the developmental process otherwise, you're not going to have the income and the lifestyle you need. And more importantly, you're not going to do as good a job for your community or your students as you need. But anyway, being respectful of time here, I know, Thomas, Mr. Wright, you have a back-to-back intro flow today. Is that right?
Yes, again. Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
it's
sir.
a happy problem to have. You did, what'd you say, 7 rolls last night? Yeah, that's drinking from a fire hose. Just point out to everybody, because that could be interpreted in multiple ways. Yeah, exactly. But 7 enrollments yesterday. That's high five, congratulations. I'm sorry that mid-month you're only at 18 enrollments. Being out for over a week on back surgery really put a crimp in your operations. Are you think you're going to hit mid-50s this month, or what's the outcome this month look like?
Well, I tell you, our goal's 22. We're at 18. We're out next week because we're all going to Little Rock. I know we'll blow 22 out of the water. We'll probably hit that today. So
that's for new members.
Yeah, enrollment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course your growth is skyrocketing beyond that because we've got a much better student average revenue for that.
Yes. And if I can interject real quick, I know some people say, oh, they're all about the marketing and marketing. Well, you have to market to get people into your school, but then you have to have something for the people to stay in your school. And since I've been with this group, we've implemented these systems and the workbooks, and there's a lot going on here in this little tiny school of ours. And what I wanted, the whole point of what I'm saying is that I'm getting more feedback, written feedback from my parents of all these 200 and something kids. They're actually writing down, and now I know what the parents are actually saying about us, because they were never coming to me about these things. And I'm not out there as often because I'm always in here with the intros and other events, but now I know what the parents are actually saying and working, and we're able to work with them to either improve or explain, or we have, because of this group, we have a system that has the parents fully involved with their child's development.
Yeah, and Mr. Wright, can I say something? I think people might be confused that we're doing something different than what ATA is suggesting. And I think that nothing could be further from the truth. Everything ATA is doing is fantastic. It's a great foundation. These are just things that build on the foundation. Is that a fair statement? So we're, like a lot of people are in the legacy training. I did the legacy training. I think it's great. Everything that we're doing builds on a very solid foundation with the ATA. That's why a lot of our ATA schools, when they really dedicate to working with us, accelerate a lot faster than other schools. But is that a fair thing to say?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In fact, it's more emphasis on our training as well as making sure everything else in running our school is handled properly. So I actually have an action plan that works now from people who have tried everything, notated their failures, learned from it, and kept going.
Yeah, and to just reemphasize that, Master Smith and myself have been very good friends with some of the top people in ATA for going back 40 plus years. And you guys start with the foundation of having the most robust curriculum and the most incredible organization, between the events, the tournaments, and all the different things that you have provided. But what we bring to the table is really getting it where students stay to black belt and beyond so that they benefit from it. Because what I find most schools in and out of ATA do is they promise all kinds of great outcomes and benefits, but the average student drops out in 6 or 7 months and never receives that, right? So what we're really doing is focusing on helping them achieve black belt and beyond in ATA, really focused on the highest quality service to the students and the community. But at the same time, all of the marketing systems, you described what I call the Parthenon, having 20 or 30 things going on at once to bring enough quality students into the school. And then third, making sure the average revenue is strong. And by the way, in a simplify format. So it's not that you're running a crawl program, you're running a cage fit, you're running a cardio kickboxing program, you're running 12 other things in your Taekwondo program. Typically, although that's fine if you want to do some of those things, but typically you're running your Songam Taekwondo program and build it to a location that's netting $250, $300, $400, even $500,000 a year, while improving the service to your student, while improving your lifestyle. Thomas, from what you've seen, is that a fair analysis?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Very good. Well, we better let you go. I know you've got a back-to-back intros going on. And Master Moody, anything to add before we ring off?
No, I really appreciate the time that Mr. Wright spent with us, and look forward to seeing everybody at World Championships next week. If you get this video afterwards, then hopefully I saw you and we got some time to talk. Let's have this week at World Championships and then work on making our school double or triple what it was afterwards.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we're prepping for the Ultimate Martial Arts Marketing Boot Camp, which is a members event in August. And the outcome for that is we put together a marketing plan in order to add a net 100 students for back to school. And really, I mean, there's no better time than mid-August through early October in order to dramatically grow your school. So a net 100 new students is a net 20,000 plus a month in revenue for the school. And again, using Colby as an example, that becomes the biggest grossing holiday season you've ever had. A couple $100,000 in December is completely doable, and it has been done by many others in the past, myself and Master Smith and Master Moody included. So anyway, well, thank you for everybody. Thank you for all of our participants here, but thank you for everybody who has tuned in and watched this. And I won't be at Worlds. Little Rock in the summer is not my favorite vacation destination, but I will say I'm going to come visit sometime. I have a lot of relatives all over Arkansas, but I look forward to continuing to help ATA as an organization and specific ATA schools grow dramatically in the coming years. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.